This is Twisted Passages with award-winning author Marie Sutro. Now, let's take a deep dive into the dark world of psychological thrillers and meet the authors who created them.
Hello, and welcome to Twisted Passages. I'm your host, Marie Sutro, and today we have #1 New York Times bestselling author Marshall Karp here to talk about his new release, Don't Tell Me How to Die. Welcome, Marshall.
Hey, Marie, it is really good to see you again.
I am so excited that you're here today. I cannot wait to jump in because this book, really no one has any idea where it's going. It is so deliciously good. Can you please start us off with an overview of what the story is about?
Maggie Dunn is a 43-year-old woman. You love her at first sight. She's successful. She has a great job. She's mayor of a small town in upstate New York, and great husband, terrific kids. She has everything to live for, but only 3 months to live. She's been diagnosed with the same rare disease that killed her mother. She wants to spend her remaining time on earth finding the perfect replacement for herself, the next wife for her husband, the next mom for her kids. Now, I asked at least 50 women what they would do if they were in her shoes. None of them said, "Oh, I would." They said Disney World, and they said this. But Maggie's on a mission, and after I met her in my head, I thought, why? And she's on a mission because when she was 17, her mom died of the same rare disease. And what happened? All the gold diggers, all the women with casseroles showed up and pounced all over Dad, and one of them ruined his life. Maggie is not going to let that happen to her family.
It starts us off really with where you start us, which is grabbing us by our heartstrings. From the moment you grab us, you don't let us go because there is so much going on here. Oh my goodness. Can we start out first with the timelines? You've given us a clock that's ticking. We have 3 months, but there's also other timelines going on. Can you explain a little bit about that and why you chose to have multiple timelines?
Oh, yeah. The first of the 7 drafts, well, I could have named them Happy, Sleepy, Sneeze. No, the first, the first of the 7 drafts, I wrote it chronologically. Maggie came to me in my head, and she was 43 years old. And, well, I better know what she's like when she's 17 years old. So I think I'll start chapter 1 with she's 17, and 3-4 chapters into it, I'll get up to the present day. Well, 31 chapters into it, I got up to the present day. So the entire first draft was chronological. If you've seen good movies, good Netflix, good anything, people have more fun if you flashback, go forward, present day, 10 years earlier. So I started figuring how to move the timeline around. And, some publishers, went, well, isn't that confusing? But readers go, I love that we go here and there, and I love it. And it's the only way to do it, to make it fun. And it's basically, it starts with 3 months before the funeral, 26 years before the funeral, a week before. And we bounce all over. We know she's going to die, but, well, you can tell them. It gets a little interesting, doesn't it?
It gets more than a little interesting. So propulsive because your heart is with this 17-year-old girl. But then we're jumping to the woman in her 40s. That part of her world is equally as traumatic, if not more so, than that younger time. And you pushed the boundaries of trauma in ways that were fearless, I would say. You gave us someone who is really super street smart, very pragmatic in this extent, to the extent that she wants to make sure her husband and children are taken care of, but also still wants to pop fate in the chops a little bit. Even that title, Don't Tell Me How to Die, is very indicative of Maggie's strong character. When she came to you, was she that strong, or did it take some whittling to get to that?
Oh, oh, she was strong. I didn't know anything about her. I wrote her as a woman in the advertising business, and I figured out how she could like win accounts and charm everybody. Oh, she got what she wanted. And then little by little, once I knew that she was dying and she had 3 months to find the perfect replacement for herself, I went back in time. And it's interesting what you said, because psychologically, Maggie was 17 when she found out she had a ticking clock. She was every 3 times a year, Maggie and her sister Lizzie were blood tested to see if they had this in their DNA. So here is a 17-year-old girl, president of her high school class, top of the church going, just the most wonderful person, and all of a sudden she knows I may not live that long. So she loses a lot of that good girl stuff. So that by the time we meet her at 43, she lets us know that we know how popular she was, but in her high school yearbook, she says, I was voted most likely to kill someone to get what I want. Well, that's the thriller writer in me. And as soon as I tell you Maggie's classmates thought she might be capable of killing someone, that gives her a layer that you can't shake from your head.
You can't. And coming back to that concept of trauma, it so informs every aspect of who she is, from that tender age, experiencing trauma, and then having to carry the repercussions of that for her life. But like you said, living under this sword from such a young age, never knowing if that next visit to the doctor is going to be the one. Was that a harder type of layered trauma to develop in a human being because you did it so well?
If I did it well, it's because I didn't think of it as trauma. I thought of it as life. Fair warning to readers. And when you get to chapter 9, you will go through what Maggie went through. I mean, I've had 100 beta readers. I've had friends who texted me, I just read, I'm a grown man, and I just read. I go like, well, dude, don't feel bad. I was bawling my eyes out as I was writing it. Oh, I want you to feel for Maggie. And by the way, people read it and go, she's so screwed up. Hey, I'm a writer. I know from Flawed. And if you don't believe me, ask my shrink after 42 years. He says, I am starting to show signs of mental health. I said, can I go now? He said, nah. My wife and I want to redo the kitchen. It doesn't matter that I sentenced 4 kids through graduate school. Yeah, I mean, psychological trauma, as you know, changes us in ways. Look, I may have had so much therapy time that I understand it. And a lot of times friends will talk to me about, why do I do this? And I'll know enough about them to say, do you remember when you were 12 years old? And I will tell them. And so is that a good thing or a bad thing? That I can.
I think it's a good thing. You've picked up a lot. Obviously, you were listening to sessions.
Right. I know. I'm not a real psychologist, but I certainly play one in real life. Yeah.
And behind the keyboard.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
It was powerful. You're not going to make it through this book without getting every type of feel. The fast pace, the thriller elements, the, oh my goodness, did he just do that elements? You just never let us go. You never let us go.
Please tell them that there are a lot of laughs.
That's what I wanted to get to.
Oh, yeah.
Your signature style of humor is so well sprinkled in this, those heavy elements that are there, whether it's fear elements, whether it's suspense elements. And then you're giving us these one-liners because Maggie has an amazing sense of humor. And her sister, Lizzie, the way the two of them go back and forth. Oh, my goodness.
I hang around with enough people living in dark businesses. I spent 3 hours in the LA County morgue, and they crack wise all the time. Cops, surgeons, people who have to deal with trauma can have to deflect it with dark humor. And so, yeah, and Maggie's, there's always, in my Lomax and Biggs series, Detective Mike Lomax and Terry Biggs, LAPD, Terry Biggs wants to retire and be a stand-up comic. Once you know that, whatever he says, he can be legitimately funny.
One of the things that was not exactly funny, but absolutely intriguing was the areas around love that you probed. Because for as funny as you are, Marshall, those still waters run deep. And you looked at love from a variety of perspectives here. And we saw elements of selfish love where Maggie is young, and that often happens. You know, our perceptions of love when we're young, or who is that person and can they be mine, right?
Oh, yeah.
But then you show us Maggie in her 40s, who is a mother, who is making this decision, this profound decision that is completely selfless love, because she's worried about her husband and she's worried about her children and she wants to protect them. And I was wondering, where is that balance? Where do you think as human beings we hit that stride between, oh, I want this person because I love the way they make me feel, versus I'm willing to hurt and do things that don't make me feel good for the other person?
Well, we do see Maggie when she goes through a horrible time. I don't think I saw that real vindictive streak in her. But for me, there's a companion to love, and that's loyalty. My mantra, and it's something I read in a book by William Goldman when I was in college. The essence of loyalty is reciprocity. That's so deep for me. Maggie knows who she's loyal to. She will do anything for her father, her grandfather, her sister, her husband, her kids, her friend Johnny, her friend. I mean, loyalty to me is one of the most precious assets you can, you could be a jerk from time to time, but if you were there for me, I promise you, I will always be there for you. And I think that's the love that comes from Maggie, and that's what's built into her soul that just emanates, even if she doesn't love you. It may feel a little bit Godfather, loyalty, but it's like, if you're there for me, she does the wrong things because she's so controlling, ultimate micromanager. By the way, my wife calls me Mike, last name row manager. But Maggie does so much out of just love and loyalty and from deep, deep. But of course, I'm a thriller writer. And I love the reviews that said, it wasn't really a thriller. And the holy crap, what just happened? And then bam, 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 bam. And as you gave me a wonderful quote, he keeps going until he blows you away with the final 5 words in the book.
It was just smacks you to the left, smacks you to the right, and you just keep coming back. And one of the best things about it is sometimes you get a twist. If you're lucky, may get a couple more before the end. Oh my goodness. This corkscrew was so intense. Where you came from, I mean, the things you did were so fearless. Those are the ones that really, really do knock you out of your seat, even when you're cozy in the leather chair.
I will tell you, I love writing this genre because it's the one genre where you can totally play chess with your audience. I love offering up those twists and going on the ride with them.
Well, I would say it was not chess. I would say it was like 3D chess played in different parts of the planet, different time zones,
I,
all at once.
I've said that it's like getting a 5,000 piece jigsaw puzzle without the picture on the cover. You put it together, and then all of a sudden, the last minute, you go, whoa! I love that.
The reason it all works so well, whether it's the propulsive thriller elements, whether it's feels of this poor family and what they're going through, I think it all works so well because underneath it all, you have a strong woman who has some of the best street smarts out there.
It's not only who I wanted her to be, it's who she was when she came. I was going to call you and say, this character is in my head, and I really think a woman should write her book, only she apparently can't get out of my head. She can't jump, so she told me, suck it up. But I did talk, and you're one of them, I did talk to a lot of street smart women who said, well, clearly you did not grow up as a teenage girl. Look, I'm not a woman, but when you talk to enough women, intelligent, street smart, feeling, they're happy to tell you where you're wrong and help you get it right. And folks, Marie Sutro, the real deal.
Thank you, Marshall. I know that everyone is going to adore this book. So many people who already know your work and adore it are going to absolutely be just trying to pull their jaw up off the floor. And then, of course, all the newbies will be pulling their jaws up off the floor as well. But one more quick question for you, coming back to kind of that psychological element, because you gave us a character that's in the throes of one of the worst possible things you can deal with in life. Yet, I guess the best way to say it is the moment isn't too big for her. Have there ever been situations in your life, whether it was you personally or people that you care about, in order to kind of see that and see how they could make their way through it?
Writing this book was that experience for me in a lot of ways. One of the reasons I was so fearless is because having written 7 books for James Patterson, now I wrote them, sure. I had to fit within a mold. I had to fit within the James Patterson brand. And God love him for giving me the opportunity to get out there and become #1 New York, or as my wife says, #1 New York Times best-selling author, take out the garbage. I knew that I wanted to do something out of my comfort. I wanted to do something that defined me. And so I was willing to take a chance. This was against all odds. This was, I don't care. I'm doing this. And I'm getting close to the top of the hill I was willing to die on. And look, I can still fog the screen. And so I was at the top of my game when I was 39 years old in the advertising, but I was set for life. But they made me the head of an advertising agency. I had 100 people. They said, we're paying you extra not to write. And I threw that all away because that wasn't why I was on the planet. I was on the planet to write. And I gave it all up, and I wrote a play, and I started writing television. And follow your heart, and it will take you to the best places. And I promise you, I promise everyone out there, the best is yet to come.
Beautiful. There is something I've been holding back about, and it's going to kind of be my last question, but I have to ask, can we get an update on Charlie? Because those who follow you on social media have seen the beautiful Charlie.
Oh, God. Charlie is on the sofa. Yesterday was 11 months since I rescued him. When my last dog at 15 and a half, when Kylie passed, I was crushed. Look, I need a dog for companionship. And also, as every writer can tell you, I need distractions. I got to go out there and throw a stick, throw a ball. When Kylie died, my son said, I want you to find a dog that has had a miserable life and give it the best life possible. And I found Charlie. He came out of the pound in Dallas, Texas. He was bitten up by other dogs, like maybe used as sparring partner in dog fights. And he had heartworm. He was an hour away from being euthanized. And Somehow he got saved. He wound up in New York City, and I found the rescue organization, and I drove into the city, and he wouldn't go near me, wouldn't go near my wife. I said, yeah, we'll take him. And he was a challenge. And now 11 months later, he's still, if you drop a fork, he jumps, but he's my constant companion. He's my daily shadow. He's my nightly companion. He adores me. I adore him. I don't know how old he is. He's not young, and he doesn't know how old I am. And it's working out really well for the two of us. And I cannot tell you how good I feel, just not about having a dog, but about seeing this dog love his life. It's called A Serious Case of Codependency.
Well, this book became my entire life as I was reading it. Every thought, every moment, the heart pounding or the heartbreaking, either side, the astonishment, the wow, the oh my goodness moments. Absolutely a phenomenal read from start to finish, Marshall.
Thank you.
Now that we know how very, very, very worthwhile this book is, all of your existing fans and now all new fans who are going to be running all over themselves trying to get to your work, where is the best place for them to find you?
Start with my website, karpkills.com. You can write me at marshall@karpkills.com. And I've been on LinkedIn writing about writing. I love to write to people who want to learn to write. I am actually on, how do you say this, TikTok thing that you young kids are using?
That thing.
And I am Marshall Karp, author on Instagram, and I have a Facebook page that's both. I have a personal Facebook page and an author Facebook page, and I can't tell the difference. So I'm a sucker for I tell my wife I'm an introvert, and she says, no, you're an extrovert. And I go, how about I'm just an introvert who's got like this bad habit of interrupting people? Start with karpkills.com.
Well, that is such an on-brand name because Karp killed it with this book. Absolutely killed it. Thank you, Marshall. Again, don't tell me how to die. You will not be disappointed. Phenomenal read.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Twisted Passages. We hope to see you next time.